So this morning I want to talk to you about the coming war on the Euphrates River that the world just seems to be oblivious about. Everybody assumes that I should say not everybody, but there are people out there who are atheists who don't believe anything. And there are more of those than people will readily admit. People do not even bother to try to understand the seven seals, the seven um, trumpets, and the seven vials. And as I pointed out, if you want to get understanding into what is written in the New Testament, you need to go and read what is written in the prophets. And I believe the best way to find out, of course, we won't know the whole truth about the seven trumpets and the seven last plagues until the seven thunders are revealed as written in Revelation 10. But the way that Yehoshua, the first one, everybody calls him Joshua, the way the trumpets sounded the first time was they went out and they went around the walls of Jericho one time each day for 7 days. Then on the seventh day, they went around the walls of the city 7 times. And then the trumpet was blown and a great shout and the walls came tumbling down. Well, one must always remember that what's going to happen in the book of Revelation is patterned after what happened to the walls of Jericho. And within lies some answers. But what I want to talk about is the sixth trumpet sound and the sixth vial. Why they are similar. And the significance of the President of the United States deciding on his own to pull U.S. troops out of the Euphrates River. People say, well, no, it's pulling troops out of Syria. No, that's where we need to dig a little deeper, folks. Essentially, what is happening is true, pulling out of Syria, but out of the Euphrates River. And my criticism of him was not in him pulling the troops out of the Euphrates River or out of Syria, but the way he did it by not consulting with Israel and then essentially saying, it's all yours, Erdogan, rather than saying, blessing to Israel, and may you receive all of the land written about in Joshua 1, verses 1 through 4. That would have been the right way to go. And then pull out and say, it's yours, Israel. That's what should have been done. See, Israel's land goes all the way to the Euphrates River. And it takes all the land of the Hittites. And it goes all the way down to the river of Egypt. Of course, a fearful president would not mention such things, would he? That would really start something, wouldn't it? So it appears what he's trying to do, what President Donald Trump is trying to do, is get out of the war, get out of the way of the coming war that he foresees on his own, which is understandable. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to draw some parallels. I'll get this screen share started. We'll go to the two scriptures first, as I've done in the last few videos. Revelation 9, verse 13. The sixth angel sounded, and I heard a voice from the four horns of the golden altar, which is before Jehovah, saying to the sixth angel, which had the trumpet, loose the four angels which are bound in the great river Euphrates. And the four angels were loosed. Okay. The word loosed and the word bound. Let's go into Strong's Concordance and let's get definitions correct here. Loose, to release, all right, which are bound, which are tied, which are fastened, okay, to the Euphrates River. In other words, they were sort of imprisoned in that particular location and were not allowed to step out of the great river Euphrates. And the four angels were loosed, okay, to prepare. So these four angels are to prepare for a time period of an hour, a time period of a day, a time period of a month, and a time period of a year. So we got an exact amount of time. Should we start counting now? Well, that will remain a question. I'm not sure, but it probably would be a good idea to mark your calendar. For to slay the third part of men. All right. Now, this doesn't say the third part of men that are in Syria. That's not what it says. It doesn't say the third part of men that are in the Middle East. That's not what it says. It says the third part, a third of mankind. That's what it says. Now it says the number of the army of the horsemen. Now, we talked about, this should read cavalry, were 2 myriad, and I heard a number of them. That's exactly what it says. It doesn't say 200,000. That's not what it says. It doesn't say 200 million. It doesn't say that. It says 2 myriad, or myrius. You see, the word myrius or myriad is the usage is a group of 10,000. And also, it is derived from the word myriad, which is an indefinite large number, but strictly means 10,000, figuratively a number too large to count or to reckon. So a good number of people doesn't mean 200 million, though. Okay? As some will try to tell you. A good number of people. All right. And thus I saw the horses in the vision, and them that sat on them, having breastplates of fire, of jacinth and brimstone. And the heads of the horses were as heads of lions. The heads of horses don't have heads of lions, so he was describing something else, as I mentioned before. And out of their mouths issued fire and smoke and brimstone. Horses don't have mouths that issue fire, smoke, and brimstone. You see. And by these were the third part of men killed, by the fire, by the smoke, and by the brimstone, which issued out of their mouths. What it says is issued out of the mouth, but when you read this clearly, you will see it actually comes from their tails. So he describes it a little bit more accurately here. For their power is in their mouth and in their tails. So what he's saying is the direction comes from the head, and the This looks like missile launchers, mobile missile launchers, for their tails were like unto serpents and had heads within, and had heads. And with them two together, they do hurt. Okay, so what is the gist of this particular trumpet sound? 1/3 of mankind being destroyed within a year, a month, and a day. 1/3 of mankind. Now, if you saw signs that we were at the precipice of this, wouldn't you be concerned? Wouldn't you? Wouldn't you be afraid? Well, folks, I'm telling you that we are seeing signs of this. We're seeing it right before our very eyes. All right, so we'll go then to Revelation 16, verse 12. And the sixth angel poured out his vial upon the great river Euphrates, and the water thereof was dried up. And as I've mentioned before, that John more than once, or Yohanan is how his name should be pronounced, more than once, well, actually, the angel told him that the waters which the great horse sits on are many peoples, languages, and kindreds. Okay, so water was referenced as people in the vision. So it is not out of the question that water is also people in this particular vision. Was dried up, that the way of the, not king, see, once again, I wanted to point out, and I know I'm repeating what I've talked about several times already, but I'm getting to a point here, folks. I'm getting to a point. Please bear with me. This is not plural. This is singular. You see how easy it is to screw up translation and get an entirely different meaning. This is singular. So we have a similar event occurring on the great river Euphrates, between the sixth trumpet sound and the sixth vial. So the water could mean people, an army that was on the Euphrates River, cleared out, so that the ruler of, it says the east in King James translation, but you clearly see 395 in Greek, it's Anatolia or Anatolia. Might be prepared. Well, what we see happening is President Donald Trump is clearing out the troops from Syria, more specifically the Euphrates River, so that the ruler, the way of the ruler of Anatolia, is prepared. Is it the same thing? I don't know, but you can't rule it out. And if it is, if that is describing the event that's now occurring, then it would behoove everyone to really, really dig in deep. Have your wits about you, have your things about you, and have the truth about you. Because if that is what is happening, we're talking about within a period of a little over a year, 1/3 of mankind being wiped off the face of the earth. That's what we're talking about. And let's not get into this, well, no, so This event has to happen first. Don't sit here and say that. The reason why I say we should not sit here and say that is because, as Yehoshua said, as in the days of Noah, people were eating and drinking and marrying and giving in marriage and knew not. They didn't see it coming. And there's all sorts of reasons why people won't see it coming. And one of them will be, well, we didn't see this event happen, or we didn't see that event happen. You see. And that's the reason why it also says right here in verse 15, behold, I come as a thief. Blessed is he that is watching and keeps his garments about him, lest he walk naked and they see his shame. Now, why would he have to say that in the 6th vial? Why? You would think that the earth would be absolutely devastated already from the trumpet sounds and the vials before it. Well, folks, if you take a look at history, the earth, especially Europe, has indeed been devastated. Throughout the past 2,000 years, over and over again, for their sins. How can one say that none of these things have happened yet? I'm not saying that they have. Well, what I'm saying is, how can you say they haven't? Okay. So, I think it is time to look at the great river Euphrates. I have a few pictures. This one right here is a particularly good one. This was taken in January. This was in January 2018. Now, as you can see, you have all these bases, U.S. bases in eastern Syria. But you got a bunch of them right up here. And then you still have some outposts along the Euphrates River, one particular in Deir ez-Zor. Okay. And of course, you've got one here at Abu Kamal and then way down in El Tanz. Okay. So, but the vast bulk of them are right up here in the north part of the Euphrates River in Syria. Okay. Interestingly enough, you see U.S. bases here arrayed against Russian bases on this side of Syria, right? So we heard President Donald Trump say, it's all yours, Turkey. What he essentially was saying is each and every one of these bases, all this area is now going to be handed over to Anatolia. And the Americans are going to leave. So, was this a brilliant move on President Trump's part? Doing several things. Arraying Turkey versus Russia instead of the United States versus Russia. This seems to be a common practice to make sure you have your proxies facing your enemy so that your proxy gets the worst of the bloodshed in case things go wrong. This appears to be what's happening here. And probably, I say probably because I don't know, but probably the reason why he did this was because Turkey has been getting very cozy with Russia concerning the S-400 missile systems, Turkey wanting to buy them from Russia, and Turkey trying to play both ends against the middle. Right? So instead of it being the United States versus Russia in Syria, it would be Turkey. Or Anatolia versus Russia in Syria. And if, once again, I'm saying if, folks, if the sixth angel, a sixth trumpet, and the sixth vial are tied together, if they are similar, if they are the same thing, and a reasonable person could conclude that it is, then a great war that's going to last an hour and a day and a month and a year to slay the third part of men is about to commence. All right, and here's another look at the upper part of the Euphrates River in the north. You can see the dam. All right, so Euphrates Dam. That's right, pretty. All right, and this is Manjib. This is where I believe the first of the U.S. troops are pulling out, right in this area, and where the Turks are coming in. Okay. So let me turn this phone off. So are they coming from the north or are they coming from the east? Well, clearly they would be coming from the north, but from Anatolia. There is one ruler in Anatolia, that is Erdogan. So is there a scripture in the Bible that says that these people are going to be fighting against each other? Russia and Turkey. Yes. That's right. It is in Ezekiel 38. Magog War. All right. So, as you see, by now it appears that we have the vast majority of the players here already set in the Gog-Magog War to come against the mountains of Israel. Yeah, they all have one thing in common: they hate Israel. So, if they can get over their animosity towards one another, that there's only one way to do it, and that is to go after Israel. So this is what they're going to do. Merchants of Tarshish and Sheba and Dedan, that would be the Arabian Peninsula, but the merchants of Tarshish with all the young lions. These are strong nations from the Atlantic, or strong lions, young nations from the Atlantic, young states from the Atlantic, are going to protest against this invasion of Israel. And what happens? There's going to be a great earthquake. And he says, and he will call for a sword against him in the mountains of Israel. That's what it says, in the mountains of Israel. Har. You see that word har? You know what Armageddon means? Armageddon. Armageddon is a mountain of Megiddo. In the mountains of Israel. Okay, says Jehovah, and every man's sword shall be against his brother. This, folks, right here, is going to kill the third part of mankind. Yes, a third of mankind. This is backed up. This war is talked about in Haggai 2, verses 18 through 22. And it is talked about in Joel 2 and in Joel 3. 1/3 of mankind, folks. The trap is being laid for Turkey, Russia, Iran, and any other nation who wants to jump in. Right now, the trap is being laid. That is my opinion. If it were not so, how do I put this? As in the days of Noah, right? People won't see it coming. People won't see it coming. Why won't they see it coming? Because they're living in a time when everything seems to be normal in one's own place. If it says eating and drinking and marrying and giving in marriage, that what that also means is participating in trade, everything is normal. That's what it means. Everything appears to be normal. Paul said, when they shall say peace and safety. Well, they have been saying peace and safety for a long time. President Donald Trump talks about this peace deal of the century. The Turks claim that them going into northern Syria to take over where the U.S. was is going to bring peace and security. That's what they say. That's what they've been saying. I pointed this out several videos ago. So they're already saying it. One-third of mankind, folks. I don't even know how I'm going to be ready for that. And I know it's coming. What about those who don't see it coming? How ready are they going to be? Do you want to be one of them? Do you want to say, well, the first trumpet hasn't been blown yet? See, I have a theory about the trumpet sounds in Joshua, because they went around the city once, blew the trumpet, and went back home. And then the next day, and then the next day, and then the next day. But on the seventh day, they went around the city 7 times before the last trumpet was blown. I think there are similarities here. I think some things have already happened, and people are simply not aware. What I mean is, some things have already happened with the seals, the trumpets, and the vials. But on that last day, during the time of the 7th trumpet, 7 more rounds, as if the whole thing starts all over again. Think about it. Maybe you'll find an answer. I don't know that I have one, but it's just something that has been bugging me, bothering me. I don't have an answer to. But one thing we should understand is if we start to see things match up, events match up in our time, that match up with the 6th trumpet and the 6th vial, and within that time frame, 1/3 of mankind will be destroyed by weaponry that are only available in the last days. I think it's time to pay attention and try to prepare yourself if you can. I just don't see how the world is going to be ready for something like this. I really don't. So, just doing my part to point out the similarities between what's going on today and the seventh trumpet and the sixth trumpet and the sixth vial.